Have you ever had that niggling doubt in the back of your mind that maybe you can't cut it? Maybe you aren't a good enough author. Maybe that person over there is better than you over here, and maybe you should just throw in the towel. Well, that is comparisonitis, and that is the topic of today's episode of The Author Switch. So stay tuned.
Are you an entrepreneur, small business owner, or consultant looking to boost your authority, influence, and impact? The Author Switch podcast with best selling, award winning author Carma Spence is your answer. Tune in for actionable advice, powerful strategies, and engaging interviews to turn on your author switch and take your business to the next dimension.
The Author Switch.
Hello, and welcome to the Author Switch podcast. I am your host, Carma Spence, and I help entrepreneurs write, publish, and market client attracting books so that they can grow their businesses. Now, if you've ever found yourself comparing your abilities to somebody else's and frankly not measuring up as well, that, my friends, is comparisonitis. And that's what I'm going to be talking about because you do not want to fall into the comparison trap for a variety of reasons, some of which I will address in today's episode. So let's get going. Let's first talk about what is the comparison trap. Okay, the comparison trap is a habit of measuring your progress, your success, and your worth against that of what you perceive in others. And this is the key word, you perceive. You rarely actually know what they're going through, what their success is, what anything is. And so, a common trigger of this comparison trap in authors is seeing another author's books, sales, awards, social media following, and publishing deals. I mean, heck, just the fact that I've got award winning, best selling next to my name probably triggers some of you. And you're thinking, you can't do what I can do. But you can. You absolutely can. And another trigger is comparing writing speed, style, and productivity. I fall into this. You know, some of my favorite authors are very prolific. They've got like, I think Isaac Asimov published like hundreds of books. And I'm just like, I'm only at 5 or 6, or maybe I'm at a dozen now. I've lost count. Anyway, it's not 100. And it's like, there's a part of me that like thinks I should be able to do that. And I can't. My life is not set up to do that. I am not a full-time author at this point, so I don't have the time to dedicate to that kind of productivity, and that's okay. That's okay. Another trigger is observing the public praise or critical acclaim others receive. You know, you see people winning awards, or you go to Amazon to buy a book and you see, "Gee, this person has 10 million 5-star reviews. I'll never get that for my book." You could. And who knows how accurate those are? I mean, sometimes people put reviews up for books they haven't even read. Sometimes they content stuff. I mean, I'm not saying, I mean, those are really bad practices. I'm not saying that legitimate authors do that because pretty much they don't. But when you look at a book, unless you know the author, you don't know how ethical they're being about their reviews. Just saying. So, how does this comparison trap affect people like you and me, affect authors? These are the things that if you don't put this comparison trap in check, you could suffer from, and it could drastically affect your ability to produce good quality books and grow your business with them. So the first one is it erodes self-confidence. Constantly comparing yourself to someone else, especially if they seem more successful, can lead to feelings of inadequacy and low self-worth. You might feel like you're not as talented or as capable. You may diminish your own belief in your abilities. And when that happens, you actually start self sabotaging and You pull your punches. You don't go all in. You don't shine the light that you were meant to shine. And that robs the world and your ideal readers of your particular brand of brilliance. The comparison trap also stifles creativity. The stress and pressure of comparison can inhibit creative thinking. And you may find yourself mimicking other authors rather than developing your own unique voice. This leads to a loss of originality and authenticity in your own work. And that is a really bad road to go down. The comparison trap also increases stress and anxiety. The constant worry about not measuring up can lead to chronic stress and anxiety. It can manifest in physical symptoms because all the stress can manifest in physical symptoms like headaches, sleep disturbances, fatigue. If it goes on long enough, it can also cause indigestion, heart disease, other diseases, anything that causes long-term stress. And comparison trap causes stress, on and on and on. The comparison trap also leads to procrastination. It's one of the many triggers of procrastination because the feelings of inadequacy can make you put things off. In fact, you may avoid writing altogether, thus robbing the world of your particular brand of brilliance. You may delay starting new projects, or you may fail to finish the ones that you've already started because you're like, "Ugh, why bother throwing the towel?" Don't throw in the towel. Don't throw in the towel because the grass is always greener. It's always greener on that other side. And the funny thing is, there's probably the author looking back and thinking your grass is greener. So don't do it. Comparing yourself to someone else also hampers professional growth. Instead of focusing on personal progress and skill development, you waste your time fixating on others. That's just plain silly. So stop it. Just stop it. Just like that Newhart skit on Mad TV. Just stop it. Look it up on YouTube. I'll put a link in the show notes. It's hilarious. If you haven't seen it, it's hilarious. And finally, the sixth thing that the comparison trap can cause is a diminishing satisfaction and joy. I mean, if you're comparing yourself to someone else all the time, how can you be happy? I remember I dated a guy once who constantly compared himself to this friend of his. I mean, to the point where he would like every time that guy stopped dating a girl, he'd start dating her. And it was just, and I saw what it did to his self-confidence because one time after we were dating, the guy held a party and this other guy showed up. He was invited, and my boyfriend was just a completely different human being because that guy who's so much better than I am. No, he wasn't better. That's what he thought, and it totally changed the way he showed up at his own party, and it can do this to you as an author. Now, how do you beat the comparison trap? How do you get rid of it? One tool is positive affirmations. Now, I post all sorts of positive affirmations in my Facebook group, so I will put a link in the show notes to that. But anyway, positive affirmations that you say daily can help drip positivity into your brain to the point where eventually you start believing it. So, affirmations can rewire the brain for confidence through a process known as neuroplasticity. Say that 3 times fast. And this is the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming neural connections. And here is proof that it works as a book called The Woman Who Changed Her Brain. And she's an expert in helping people with learning disabilities rewire their brain to cure these learning disabilities. I mean, there was a time when people thought if you have a learning disability, tough, tough. You've got it for the rest of your life. And she proved otherwise because the brain is plastic and you can do things to change it, reorganize it, and fix it in a lot of cases, a lot of cases. So understanding neuroplasticity is really important to understand how affirmations work and why they work. And that's why I told you a little bit about how this ability of your brain to like rewire, reform, form new neural pathways. It's why you can teach an old dog new tricks. Neuroplasticity. So, how do positive affirmations rewire your brain? Repeated positive affirmations help create new neural pathways associated with positive thinking and self belief. By consistently focusing on positive statements, you can gradually replace the negative thought patterns in your mind. This strengthens the neural connectiveness and basically it gets you into the habit of thinking positively. Because if any action or thought is repeated, the stronger the neural pathway for that action or thought. So, regular use of affirmations reinforces positive self perceptions, making them more ingrained and automatic. Positive affirmations also reduce negative bias. The human brain has a natural tendency to focus on negative experiences. This is what's called negative bias. Affirmations can help counteract this bias by shifting focus toward positive thoughts, thus reducing the impact of negative self talk. How you like them apples? I like them apples a lot. Positive affirmations also enhance emotional resilience. Positive affirmations can increase your emotional resilience by promoting a more optimistic and confident mindset. Over time, this makes it easier to bounce back from setbacks and maintain a positive outlook. So if you get into the habit of saying everything's great when things go bleh, you go, okay, the moment is bleh, but everything will get back to great. That's a really simplified example, but that's basically how it works. It also activates a reward system. Affirmations can activate your brain's reward system by releasing feel good chemicals like dopamine. This creates a positive feedback loop where the brain associates affirmations with pleasure and well being and feel good hormones, thus reinforcing their use. So, in other words, the more you say positive affirmations, the more it feels good to say a positive affirmation. So your brain says, hey, hey, go over and say that positive affirmation because it feels good. It's kind of like, you get addicted to chocolate cake because chocolate cake tastes good and you want to eat more of it. And that's despite the fact that it makes your waist a little bit less svelte. It just tastes good. So you want more. Positive affirmations are much healthier thing to get addicted to than chocolate cake. Here's some practical tips on how to use positive affirmations to help you kick the comparison trap to the curb. So first, consistency is key. You need to regularly practice your affirmations or they just won't work. If you like say it one day and then not the other, and then you go a couple, it becomes easier and easier not to say them, and then they're not doing you any good if you're not saying them. So daily repetition is what helps solidify your new neural pathways. You also want to make sure that your affirmations are personalized to you. You can say someone else's affirmations if you make them relevant to you. If you can't say a positive affirmation without going, "Ugh," you need to change it so that you can at least go, okay, that could be true. And so you want to customize the affirmation to the particular insecurities or self doubts that you have compared to maybe the person who wrote them. You also want to visualize them. Now, when I say visualization, it doesn't necessarily mean visualization with your eyes, because, for example, I'm terrible at visualizing. I even dream blurry black and white. I mean, it is a rare dream that I have that's actually in color and that I can see clearly. I'm not a good visualizer, whereas I've met people who can literally see things in their mind as if they were like right out here. Crazy. I have no personal experience of what that must be like. Must be really cool. So when you visualize what that really it's shorthand for make the experience as real as possible. Smell it if you can, hear it if you can, taste it if you can, feel it if you can, activate as many of your senses in the experience of the affirmation to make it real, to make it concrete, so that because your subconscious and your body does not know the difference between a real thing and an imagined thing. So the more real you can make your imagined thing, your positive affirmation, the more likely your subconscious will take it in and change. You wanna make it as emotionally engaging as possible. If your emotional reaction to an affirmation is, "Eh, who cares?" It's not the right affirmation for you. You need an affirmation that makes you go, "Ooh, wow, I want that. Ooh, wow, I want that." That's the kind of experience you want. So here are some examples of affirmations that you can use and tweak. My unique voice and perspective are valuable. My unique voice and perspective are valuable. The next one is I believe in my ability to succeed. I believe in my ability to succeed. And the last example, every challenge I face helps me grow stronger and more confident. Every challenge that I face helps me grow stronger and more confident. How do you like them apples? Well, you can think about them apples while we listen to this word from our sponsor.
The future of entrepreneurial book writing has arrived. In an age where information moves at the speed of light and innovation is a business requirement, one book stands as the North Star for the authors of tomorrow. In You Can Make It to the Finish Line, Carma Spence decodes the mysteries of writing a book that markets your business, offering a blueprint to navigate the frontiers of writing, editing, and publishing. With accessible techniques and visionary insight, this guide propels you forward so that your expertise can transform into impact. Step into your future, transform your vision into a legacy. You can make it to the finish line, where your author's journey meets the future. Available now on Amazon.
Hello, and welcome back to the Author Switch podcast. I am your host, Carma Spence, and I help entrepreneurs write, publish, and market client attracting books so that they can grow their business. Woohoo! So, before the break, I explained what the comparison trap was, the triggers that cause it in authors, and I talked about what comparison trap can do to you both mentally and physically. And then I talked about one of the many tools you can use to help kick comparison trap to the curb, and that was positive affirmations. I talked about what they were, how they changed your brain through your brain's neuroplasticity, and I gave you some practical tips and 3 examples. Now I want to talk a little bit about setting realistic goals and more stuff. More stuff that will help you kick comparison trap to the curb. So first, let's address setting realistic goals. When you set realistic goals, you're less likely to compare yourself to others because your goals are your goals and they're not their goals. So you can't compare. It's like saying they've got pears and I've got apples. They've got oranges and I got apples. And I like them apples. I like them apples a lot. So you want to set achievable goals, goals that you can achieve, and they need to be simple, maybe small, they need to be measurable, they need to be achievable. And if you really want to stretch it, you want them to be a little bit of a stretch because I haven't read the book yet, but there's a book called Hard Goals that talks about how if your goal is too smart, which is what most productivity teachers are telling you to do, you got to have smart goals. You got to have smart goals. Apparently, if they are too smart, you get complacent. So you want goals that are stretching, but they still need to be measurable. You still need to know Okay, I've achieved it. And the only way you're going to know that you achieved it is if it's measurable. Then you want to celebrate small wins along the way. Now, I did an entire episode of this podcast where I talked about ways that you can celebrate along the author's journey. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. But basically, if you can acknowledge and celebrate your wins, no matter how small, then it builds up that positivity and helps you move forward. And it stops you from comparing yourself to others because you should be only comparing yourself to yourself. That's your biggest competition, you. You also want to practice self compassion. Nobody's perfect, and that's okay. That's okay. It's okay not to be perfect. So show yourself some compassion when things go wrong. You made a mistake. Hey, I've made tons of mistakes. Yay me. Mistakes happen. You fix them and you move on, or you deal with the consequences if they're not fixable and you move on and you try not to make that mistake again. Another tool to help you with the comparison trap is mindfulness and meditation. Now, I've done a few episodes about mindfulness and a morning routine, a little bit on meditation. I'll drop those into the show notes as well. But basically, mindfulness is being aware of the present moment. So, like right now, I can feel my feet on the floor. I can feel the heat of the light I put right here to help balance the light. I can hear the humidifier that's you can't see, but I can hear it. These are all parts of my being aware of the present moment. Meditation techniques is focusing on a single thing and letting thoughts just go through your mind so that you can focus on the present moment. Some people will use a phrase or statement. You can use an affirmation to meditate. So you could say, my unique voice and perspective are valuable. And just keep saying that and focus on that phrase. My unique voice and perspective are valuable. My unique voice and perspective are valuable. And you just keep focusing in on that statement. And when other thoughts come in, thank you very much. Let them float on out. That's a form of meditation. Some people use a candle and focus on the flame that's flickering. Some people honestly, there's probably as many ways to meditate as there are people who meditate. Find the way that works for you. And there are a lot of books and CDs and all sorts of things, classes that teach you meditation. One thing that you need to be very aware of is social media comparison. So, comparing yourself to others on social media has both positive and negative because like anything social media itself is neutral. It's what we do with it. Like a hammer is neutral, but you can do good things with it, like build a house, and you can do bad things with it, like hurt people or animals. Don't hurt animals. Don't do that. So the positive aspects of social media are connection and community. I remember when I was in the hospital after being hit by a car, Facebook was like my lifeline. It was my lifeline. I was talking and sharing, and people were talking and sharing back, and the outpouring of love I received from the community that formed around me while I was healing in the one hospital and then a rehab hospital because I had to learn how to walk again. And it was a whole thing. 4 or 5 months. I can't say how grateful if you were one of those people, I am so grateful. It was such a lifeline for me. Social media gives you opportunities to be expressive. I mean, I am having a blast creating cat memes for every Friday. I'm loving that. It also gives you access to support and resources. A lot of people use Facebook groups as support groups, as groups where you have your classes. Social media has really empowered a lot of people, but it can also foster comparison and envy. It can foster validation seeking. It can cause FOMO, the fear of missing out. And it can distort your reality because you live in your own little social media bubble and you think everybody's like you. And honestly, outside of social media, that happens too. I remember when I was in journalism school, we all pretty much thought the same way. So when the world did something different, we were like, "How could that be?" Because you get in your little bubble. So how do you mitigate the negative effects of social media, which can cause the comparison trap? Tip 1, mindful usage. Set limits on social media so that you prevent excessive exposure and reduce the risk of comparison. Use social media intentionally, focus on the positive, and do meaningful reactions. And that goes for not only what you read on social media, but what you post. There are certain topics I will not touch on social media because I don't need the negativity. I just don't. So I just like ignore it. And if you wanna hate me because I'm ignoring it, then that's on you, not me. I don't need the negativity in my life. I've made conscious choices in the media that I consume so that I don't have negativity pouring into my life. In fact, there are movies that I once loved. They were in my collection that I no longer own because I realized it was too intense on the negative spectrum. It caused me to be deeply sad or angry, and so I stopped. There are TV shows I stopped watching because I was angry all the time when I watched them. I didn't need the negativity. And so there are just certain topics that I've chosen not to talk about in social media because of the negativity it brings into my life, and I just don't need to go there. And so that is a mindful use of social media. Curate your feed. Follow accounts that inspire and uplift and provide value rather than those that trigger negative emotions. I mean, if someone is spewing nothing but vitriol all the time in their social media, you might want to either unfriend them or turn them off so they don't show up in your feed because you don't need to see that. You don't. Basically unfollow, unfriend, mute them so that you don't have if these feeds are causing you to feel inadequate or angry or upset, you don't have to look at them. Facebook gives you tools so that you can monitor what is in your feed, and other social platforms do that too. Another tip is to engage in real life activities, go live life. What? What a concept. Go live life. Go to the movies, go to a restaurant, go hang out in a park that has no Wi-Fi so you're not tempted to read social media while you're at the park. Go for a walk, go to a museum, do things in the real world so that you're not constantly engaging in social media and interact with people in the real world. What an idea! I know. Human beings, we can actually talk to each other without a screen being between us. What? I know. I know it's crazy talk, but there you go. Especially coming on a podcast that's basically streaming on a social media platform. Oh, well, that's what I'm saying. I'm sticking to it. Practice self-compassion because, be kind to yourself. Recognize that the world of social media and the world in general doesn't always reflect a full reality of anyone's life. And remind yourself that everyone has struggles, everyone has imperfections, even if they aren't visible online. A lot of us, probably most of us, show up as our best selves in social media. There are things about my life I do not share in social media because I don't feel like I need to. My life isn't perfect. So if you're comparing yourself to me, you don't want my life. Trust me, you don't want my life. That doesn't mean it's terrible. I like my life, but it's not perfect. There are things about it that I'm still working on changing. And anyone that you're looking at, especially those people who show pictures of themselves on yachts and in front of expensive cars and in mansions, their lives aren't perfect. Trust me, their lives aren't perfect. So why compare yourself? Compare yourself to yourself. And finally, if your comparison trap is really seriously affecting your life negatively, seek help. There are counselors and psychologists who can work with you to get rid of it. If social media is causing too much problem, there are people who actually specialize in helping you with social media detoxes. Who knew? Crazy. There's therapy that can provide strategies to build your self-esteem, to develop a healthier relationship with social media and everything else. So seek help if you need it. And finally, 3 final tips. Embrace your unique voice. You have a unique way of looking at the world, of expressing what you see in the world. Embrace that because your ideal clients, that's what attracts them. That's what they like about you. That's what they want from you is that unique, what I call your geek factor. They want your geek factor because it helps them give life to their geek factor. Balance your writing with self care. You know, all work and no play makes Jack a very dull boy. And you don't want to be a very dull boy. So balance, if you need to, light up all the scented candles in the bathroom and take a nice bubble bath. Or go to Hawaii and jump into the little grotto with the waterfall because that was fun. That was a lot of fun. Go hiking, do things that make you feel good about yourself and make you feel go to a spa, have your nails done. I know some people really like having their nails done. I don't. Bad experiences involving blood that should not have been there. Another story altogether. But do things that make you feel good about yourself. I mean, I like to play mini golf. That makes me feel fun and good. I also like ice cream, and it's ice cream weather because it's the summer. I love ice cream. So sometimes I will indulge in ice cream. My favorite being chocolate with Oreo cookies. Dark chocolate with Oreo cookies, even better. Maybe some little toffee. Oh my gosh, I'm hungry for ice cream now. Anyway, move on. Another talk. Finally, visualize success. And I did a whole podcast episode about a guided visualization. I will drop that into the show notes as well. But visualize what you want because what you focus on expands. So why not focus on what you want? So that will expand. Yay. Like more ice cream in the world. So there you go. That is how you can help get rid of the comparison trap. You are perfect, whole, and complete as you are right now in this moment. And of course, you're getting better every day, right? There's no need to compare yourself to someone else because you are wonderful just as you are. This is Carma Spence saying ciao for now. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Author Switch podcast and would like to show your support, there are a few ways that you can do that. First, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Additionally, leaving a rating and review would greatly help me reach more listeners and continue providing valuable content. To stay up to date with the Author Switch podcast and gain access to additional information on amplifying your authority, influence, and thought leadership through books, you can follow me on LinkedIn at Carma Spence. For those interested in catching up on previous episodes, including those no longer available on podcast platforms, you can find them all at authorswitch.com/episodes, where you can choose to watch or listen to them at your convenience. Thank you so much for your support and for being a part of the Author Switch community.